You can still see it from the road. That orange, not red, not green, but orange, the kind that caught the morning sun and held on to it, the kind you could pick out across a 40-acre field long before you could make out the man in the seat. You knew whose it was, you knew what it meant, and if you came up on a farm anywhere in this country, that color is sitting somewhere in your chest right now, warm as an afternoon in June. Before we dive in, hit subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. For a lot of you, that orange was the first machine that was ever truly yours, not borrowed, not the neighbor's, not the one you waited your turn for behind two older brothers. Allis-Chalmers built the Model B for the man on 40 acres, the man the big outfits had quietly written off, and they put it within reach for about $495 back when that was real money and a long reach. They called it the successor to the horse, and for a young farmer standing in that lot with his hat in his hands, that is exactly what it turned out to be. It was the day the work stopped breaking his back and started belonging to him. You remember the first time your father stepped down off it and let you take it out into the field alone. You remember the seat was already warm from him. You can still smell it if you let yourself. The warm oil, the cut hay, and the dust hanging gold in the light behind you. You remember your mother walking out at noon with dinner in a basket, and the little ones riding the fender with their hands locked on the edge of the seat, laughing every time it bounced. That orange sits in the background of every photograph that ever mattered in your family, and some of you are feeling that warmth right now. The man who left it on that seat for you has been gone a long while. And here is something a lot of you never knew while you were working it into the ground and trusting it to start every cold morning. That orange came from one of the proudest places this country ever built. It started with one man, Edward Allis, who bought a failed millworks at a sheriff's sale for about $22. And out of that one stubborn bet, he raised one of the largest manufacturers this country would ever know. Up in West Allis, Wisconsin, in a plant so large the whole town took its name from it, 30,000 people built Allis-Chalmers iron, and in the early 50s that one company carried home more money than IBM and stood taller than 3M and Coca-Cola put together. When the country went to war, those same hands built what the war needed and asked no thanks for it. They had a line they lived by. Ours the four powers, they said, steam and gas and water and electricity, because there was almost nothing those people could not build. They set a hydrogen fuel cell onto a tractor back in 1959 and plowed a field with it, the first machine of its kind anywhere on this earth, and it rests under glass in the Smithsonian to this day. The orange that sat in your yard came from giants, from men who carried a lunch pail and a quiet pride, and every time you climbed up on it, you were holding a piece of the very best this country had in it. But the reason you loved it was never the size of the company that made it. It was that the orange never once asked you for something you could not give it. Allis put farming up on rubber tires before almost anyone, back in 1932, so the day rode a little softer for your father and for his father before him. The WC came along and became the best-selling tractor they ever made, more than 170,000 of them spread out across the country. Then the WD-45 with its power crater engine and a hitch you could snap onto an implement without ever stepping down into the mud. Then the D-17, the one a father bought already meaning to hand it down. And hand it down he did. These were machines a man kept alive with his own two hands on a cold morning, with a wrench and a clean set of points and whatever was sitting on the shelf in the shop. There was a Saturday somewhere in your life when your father wiped his hands on a rag and showed you how to set those points, and you have never once forgotten it. You know the sound it makes when it finally catches, that first low rolling thump before it smooths out into a rhythm, and you would know it in the dark with your eyes shut, the same way you would know your own father's voice. The orange never locked you out of your own engine. It never made you call a single soul. It just started, and it pulled, and it stood there waiting for you the next day. And that is a kind of trust most of you have not felt from a machine since. Then 1985 came, and the orange ran into something no wrench on that shelf could fix. Allis-Chalmers, reeling under a farm economy gone cold, sold its tractor business to a German company called Klockner Humboldt Deutz. They did not even want the great plant in West Allis. They wanted the name and the machines, and they leased the rest the way a man rents a house he already means to leave. And the first thing those new owners reached for was the soul of the thing. They took the Persian orange that men had spotted across their fields for more than 50 years. The color, the story says, was born in a field of California poppies, and they painted it away. Green, Deutz green. The same men who had laid that orange down their entire working lives were now told to roll green ones out the door, and they did it with their jaws set, because a man has to feed his family even on the day they hand him the brush to paint over the thing he built. And the farmers out here took one look and would not have it, gave the green machines a name that was not kind, and turned their backs. You cannot fault a single one of them. You do not paint over a man's loyalty and expect him to thank you for it. And then came the morning it ended for good. December 6, 1985, at 26 minutes past 10, the last Allis-Chalmers tractor came down the line in West Allis, a 6070 serial number 1972, built and started and tested by the hands of the union men of Local 248, the same men who had given that plant the whole of their working lives. On its hood sat a fresh sticker that read Deutz Allis, but peel that sticker back, and underneath, pressed into the steel where no one could reach it, the old name was still there, Allis-Chalmers, a German label laid over an American name. 71 years of orange tractors came down to that single machine, and the men who built it stood in front of it and clowned for a few photographs, the way people do when there are no words big enough for what they are carrying. Then they buttoned their coats and walked out into the Wisconsin cold, fathers and grandfathers, most of them, and the line behind them went quiet, and it stayed quiet, and a town that had run on that orange for 3 generations woke the next morning with nothing left to build. Now I owe you the honest part, because you have earned it. The Germans did not bring this down all by themselves. The orange was already hurting long before they ever showed up, worn thin by interest rates that climbed past 21%, by a company that had spread itself across too many businesses to save the one that mattered most, by John Deere and International Harvester pressing harder every year that passed. The Germans bought Allis-Chalmers on the worst day of its life and finished what the worst decade in farming had begun. And here is the part that still stings. They could not make it work either, and in 1990 they sold it back to a group of American managers who built a new company out of its bones, named it for Alice and Gleaner both, and even brought the orange back for a few short years. Then they let it go too. The name slipped away. The orange slipped away. And that very company is sending its work down to Mexico today while farm country goes quiet. Everyone who ever wore a suit forsook the orange. Every last one of them. But not you. And here is the one thing none of them ever counted on. That last 6070, the one with the German sticker laid over the American name, never quit on anybody. A man owns it now, and he only found out what he was sitting on when he was changing its oil and saw the last tractor mark stamped into the steel. That machine still rolls out to work every single morning, parked in a shed beside a whole row of orange iron that has outlived every owner who ever signed a paper on it. Out in Hutchinson, Minnesota, every summer, the orange still gathers by the hundreds, grandfathers walking grandsons down the rows, and the color still stops people in their tracks the way it always did. The Germans are gone, the managers are gone, the boardrooms are gone, and the orange is still orange. The one your father bought, the one under a tarp in the back of your barn, the one you can still pick out from the road. It outlived every last one of them, because they only ever own the company, and you own the machine. They were able to scrape the name off the front of a building. They were never once going to scrape it out of you. If this hit you somewhere, hit subscribe and tell me one thing. Whose orange tractor are you keeping alive right now?